atoms. So the simplest hydrocarbon that exists is methane. So this is a molecule of methane, which typically is a gas. So if you were outside and you looked at our lake pit and you saw all those bubbles coming out, most of those bubbles were made up of methane gas. A little bit of hydrogen sulfide also, so sometimes it smells like a rotten egg outside. It's mostly methane gas. But what we can do with hydrocarbons is we can make chains out of them. We can keep connecting hydrocarbons to each other to make more complex substances. For example, this little model here could be a molecule of paint thinner or dry cleaning solution, which are also types of hydrocarbons. But not fossil fuels, right? You wouldn't put like paint thinner in your car's tank. But it doesn't have to stop here. We can keep adding more hydrocarbons to these chains to make even more complex substances, things that become a little bit more familiar to us, like gasoline or diesel or kerosene. And then we can keep adding from there. We get things like Vaseline and gear oils and paraffin wax and then asphalt. So asphalt is what you get when you have 20 or more carbon atoms. So it is one of the more complex, if not the most complex hydrocarbon that we have. So that's what we have coming up out of the ground outside. This is a little jar of asphalt that I scooped out from one of the seeps. I had to go through a lot of hoops to get this too. Lots of permission to be had. So the source of the asphalt here is oil. So let's think about oil. Where does oil come from? From where? From the ground. Yeah, who said that? Right answer. Just kidding. It's okay. So we typically pump oil out of the ground. Does anybody know what the source of oil is? Like what oil is before it's oil?
Fossils?
Fossils. And you said?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs! Perfect. That's the answer I was looking for. So let's talk about, well, oil comes to us in a lot of different forms, right? We talked about some of these hydrocarbons like gasoline and diesel, and etc. Plastics are also a huge sort of component of our lives that are sourced from petroleum or from oil. So let's talk about this. If plastic is made from oil, and oil is made from dinosaurs, does that mean that plastic dinosaurs, like Rex from Toy Story, are made from real dinosaurs? Whoa. Have you ever thought about this before? Have you ever seen this before? Has anyone ever told you that oil comes from dinosaurs before? I'm here today to tell you, that is not correct. So when you're on Jeopardy, you guys can thank me later when this question comes up. Just kidding. So, oil does come from, you could call them fossils, from ancient life, ancient living things that have decayed and decomposed and been transformed into something else, but not dinosaurs. We're talking about diatoms. Less exciting. Just kidding. Diatoms are awesome, you guys. Diatoms, this is a picture of them under a microscope. Diatoms are algae that live in the ocean. They're super, super teeny tiny, but hugely important. Take in a big breath. Just take a big breath of air with me. Most of the oxygen that you just put into your body was made by these guys. Yay, thank you. We love them, right? So diatoms live in the ocean, and when they die, their teeny tiny little bodies will sink down into the sediment. And trillions of them, right? Sink into the sediment. Over time, that sediment...
I thought oxygen just came from plants.
It does, but most of what you're breathing, I think it's like somewhere between 50 and 80% of the oxygen in the atmosphere, these guys are responsible. Because there's a whole lot more of them than there are plants. Plants are still hugely important though, we love them. But diatoms are important too. So they sink into the sediment, and that sediment over time can become rock, called kerogen. It's a very, very organic, rich rock. Now if you take that rock and you cook it under the right amounts of heat and pressure, these little diatoms, that kerogen in that rock will become asphalt, or oil. So this is our before, right? Little algae, before, after. You just have to cook them. So you can think of oil, when you think of asphalt, as like fossilized liquid sunshine. They photosynthesize, they make their food from the sun's energy. Wow, so cool. Anyway, that's not the only thing that you need to create oil. Well, that's how you make the oil, but then you also have to trap the oil so that it can then become useful to people. So in order to do that, you have to create an oil trap. There are a few different types of oil traps that exist in the world. This type that I have a little picture of here, it's called an anticlinal trap. This is what we commonly see in Los Angeles, okay? So see how it kind of makes like a little rainbow, like the letter A for anticline? You get that shape if you take rocks and you smash them together, okay? You also need a few other types of rocks. So you need really, really specific geology to trap this oil. First, you need your source rock. You need the rock that has the oil in it. And then you need what's called a reservoir rock. So something that's a little bit more spongy. It's got more pore space. So it's something like a sandstone, so the oil can kind of migrate up into it, and that rock can soak it up. And then you need your cap rock, something that the oil cannot pass through, so maybe like a shale, sorry, your impermeable shale here. And then that shape that we make also is a way to trap that oil.
Is that shale kind of like shale oil? Is that the same thing or no?
Kind of, yeah. So we can get oil from, we look for those types of rock formations to find oil. So we need to, if we find this sequence of rock, sometimes we'll find oil. Or if we find this particular shape, we can sometimes find oil. So people, like petroleum geologists, when they're prospecting, are looking for specific markers. Like, do we have the right type of rock? Do we have the right types of oil traps? Is it the right age? Do we have the right conditions to create that oil? So there's a whole science behind it. So here in California, the rock formation that holds the oil is called the Monterey Formation. So on the top here is a little sort of schematic, a little map of where we find sort of a cross-section of the Monterey Formation. It's typically along the coast here in California. It goes up past Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, Santa Barbara, up that area. Here's a little diatom right here. And the picture on the bottom is a picture that I took out in San Pedro. How many of us are here from LA? Do you guys know San Pedro? So like White Point, there's a place called White Point Beach. Really great tide pools out there if you ever want to go tide pooling in the winter. This is a big rock formation that's out there. Okay, and if you look at it, those layers are kind of folded over like the letter C. You guys see that? Right, the letter C. So that's just an anticline that has tipped over. We call that a recumbent fold in geology speak. I love it. Anyway, so I brought some pieces of the Monterey Formation for you to look at. They're right here on the cart. You might notice a few differences between the pieces that I have here. So we'll kind of pass them around. Ooh, pass them to your left, and then I'll hand these over to you. You can pass them over to your right. Sorry, I'm thinking. My hands are very cold, so I'm trying not to like touch your face. My hands are like ice right now because it's the ice age. And then here you guys can. I have another light colored one, but it's really soft and breaks apart real easily. It's not a great specimen to pass around. But what are some things we're noticing about these specimens? Let's make some observations about them. What do we notice about them?
Is that the bottom layer?
Rough.
So
Is that the
some
top
rough
layer?
different textures.
Oh.
So the Monterey Formation can be up to 600 meters thick. There's a whole lot of it. So I'm not too sure what section these pieces are from. I found them on the beach. Because in San Pedro, like along the cliff, this stuff is just eroding down. So you can, you're not supposed to know for science. So they have different textures. Some are maybe a little more coarse grained, some are fine grained. What's another difference we might notice about these? We'll take these two samples, for example. What do we notice about it?
Different colors?
Different colors. That's probably like the more obvious difference, right? Even before touching them, you might notice, well, some of them are light colored and some of them are not. What do you think attributes this dark color? Why are some of these pieces black and some of them beige?
Tar?
Yeah, there you go. Ding, 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 ding. So you can see in the picture down here, most of the rock you're looking at is sort of a tan beige color. But again, this is our source rock for oil, and it's our reservoir rock. We have enough differences in the textures. This piece here came from a larger boulder that I could